I'm TV's Bajo. When the ABC said that I could have my very own special, I said, great, let's get on a plane and we can... But then they said they don't want to spend a lot of money. So I said, how about a clip show? And they said, yeah. And that's how the special was born. Over the next less than half an hour, I thought it'd be fun to look back at the last 8 or so years, the last generation of video games, and talk about the things that I personally loved and the games that I thought were important. And I'll also reveal my very own game of the generation. But first, let's talk about graphics. Oh my, how I love graphics. From computers to consoles to even our phones, games have grown in complexity, visual detail and definition at a rate we've never seen before. We went from standard definition to 720p to 1080p to 1440p to 4K.
What could be better than this?
I find it exciting that our technology can't quite keep up with how beautiful our games actually want to look. Here are some of the most visually impressive games of the last generation. You know how much I like graphics.
I think it's totally valid to talk graphics, Bajo.
Yes, well, this game is just beautiful. I can't think of a game that has the fidelity of Battlefield 4's visuals. The destruction, the lighting, it created such an exciting and war-torn atmosphere that we haven't really seen before.
I did notice you got shot quite a lot staring at the ocean instead of, I don't know, helping our squad achieve its objectives. Where's Bajo?
Look at that.
Yeah, now he's dead.
And when it came to blockbuster action exploding off our screens, no series did it better than Uncharted.
Uncharted 2 is beautiful, but 3 will just blow you away with stunning sceneries and incredible detail.
And Witcher 2 was ahead of its time visually. The highly optimized PC version still stands as one of the best looking games around today. And Guild Wars 2 was another incredible looking PC game, and so unexpected for an MMO. Really, it was like a moving painting that we all got to live in for a while. You can tell that a game has a strong art team behind it when even the most boring of locations like a swamp are just beautiful to look at. Oh, and the reflections, Hex, dem reflections. And when it came to sci-fi, no one lens flared like Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 is a masterpiece of virtual construction, both visually and conceptually. It's stunning to put your eyes on at every turn, and that ebbing alien soundtrack is just as incredible as the last games. The use of flaring lights and colour and darkness is fine work, and it made me feel like each frame had real thought behind it. But I think the pinnacle of console visuals was GTA 5. What a feast for the eyes. Reportedly, Rockstar spent hundreds of millions of dollars crafting this game, and it showed. It was a big game full of little details. And don't get me started on their water. Easily foam of the year. Look at that foaminess. Just look at that foamy mess. And let's not forget old mate Kratos. Few games looked as epic as the God of War series. I love how cinematic this game is in general, and those big areas that it just shows you. And BioShock Infinite, what a pretty game.
A city, lighter than air.
The whole city is a work of art, isn't it? And even when you go off the beaten track, you still feel like each section has a story to tell.
I mean, you could actually go through each room and examine the meaning behind each piece of architecture or statue, or just why the light's hitting it in a certain way.
And the detail. Even in the floorboards, just look at this wood. Marvelous. I even found myself reacting to the screen and leaping back in my chair a bit, which I have not done for a long time.
Will the circle
says he's for faith, family, and father.
be unbroken by and by?
He looks so sad.
It's just so pretty. So pretty. But much like a delicious chicken parmigiana, looks aren't everything. We've had some landmark ideas in the last generation, and even a few new genres. I love thinking about that fact, that games are still actually creating genres. If you look back at the last 30 years, I still think it's impossible to predict what the next 5 will hold, and that's really exciting. That's because games reinvent themselves with each new generation and every year that passes by. So let's have a look back at some of the more interesting ideas that shook things up a bit over the last 8 or so years. Minecraft kind of started the dig-em-up genre. It allowed gamers young and old to be truly creative and work together, limited only by your imagination. Who would have thought that a game which looked so simple and clunky would be so incredibly popular? I have not met a child in years who doesn't play this game, and all of them are better at it than I am. now and then, a game comes along that shows massive potential. A game that shows a hole in the gamosphere that is yet to be filled. The Arma 2 mod DayZ is one such game.
Oh no, there are so many. Oh man.
DayZ mod played with our emotions, where death was swift and punishing.
It's the only thing we can do. Just try and stay alive. Get down.
And it's as much a horror game as it is a social experiment. And even finding your friends in the world could take days.
Oh my god! This is the most exciting moment for me. I've been so alone for so long.
DayZ mod was important not only because it reinvigorated the survivalist genre, but it played with our emotions in new and sometimes scary ways.
Oh, who's that? Who's that? That's not one of us.
It turned gamers into storytellers.
10 minutes together and some bandit stumbled upon us and shot me. No!
Hex, if it's any consolation, your gear provided some much needed ammo to the rest of the team.
Hex, I was first to take all your gear.
If you liked the first Portal and you thought that was brilliant, then prepare to have your mind blown, because Portal 2 makes the first game look like the student project that it started out as. The Portal series is notable in my eyes because it took a physics-based puzzle game and somehow made that fun.
If it makes you feel any better, science has now validated your birth mother's decision to abandon you on a doorstep.
One day an undead legends.
But no game from the last decade is as important to me as Dark Souls. The key to what makes this game work is threat. It's really core to the game. That threat level is always high. You can't even pause the game, so even the menus are stressful. There's so much risk in losing all of your gathered souls when you die, and if you can't get back to that point, then they're gone for good, so there's even more stress trying to get back to it. Dark Souls was a landmark game that showed us with great challenge comes great satisfaction. Music rhythm games. You came, we strummed, we laughed, and then we put you under the bed after 2 years, never to pull you out again, and your plastic slowly melted from batteries oxidizing within the case. C'est la vie. Hi, I'm TV's Bajo. No one often asks me how I got into gaming and came to work on this show. Well, here's my story. I grew up in a large family and I was an annoying child, so my parents gave me video games to keep me busy. My first video game was a handheld Pac-Man. Oh, I loved that little machine. Its sleek curves, the fear of the ghosts, and the satisfaction of eating them. From this point on, video games and I began a lifelong romance that only grew each time I picked up a controller or caressed a mouse. As a child, the only way you could stop me playing video games was taking me to the store to buy more video games, or by giving me new pets. I had goats, chickens, cats, a galah that talks, and one really, really, really fat cow. They're all dead now. I grew up in Toowoomba, a city known for its annual Carnival of Flowers. I didn't like flowers, and I lived on the outskirts of town, didn't have many friends, but this isolation allowed me to play more games. From that point on, I played everything I could get my hands on, and I will continue to do so until I no longer have hands. In school, my favourite subjects were computers, film and TV, and typing. Because with typing, I could Alt-Tab and play Quake when the teacher wasn't looking. Sorry, Mrs. Benson, not sorry. After school, I worked in a computer store for over a year, which slowly destroyed my soul, but this allowed me to pursue my lifelong dream of working in film and television, in which you don't need a soul. You got a license? I think it's time we seriously think about getting out of here. All it is art. I acted in a few indie features, about 40 short films, 39 of them terrible, and made a few of my own, which I've now burned. Mostly due to people dropping out at the last minute, I got a few little roles here and there, including a massive role in the remake of Peter Pan. If you look really closely, you can see me just a little bit closer, hence there. But the highlight of my short-lived film career was a scene I shared with Australia's very own A-list celebrity Geoffrey Rush. It was a powerful, emotive, and moving scene, and some may say a pivotal moment in Australian film history. Prepare yourself.
I've joined. It's great.
And Mr. Finkelton, we think...
great.
Shut up.
The scene was cut from the final release. And then after a brief foray into late-night text-to-win quiz shows, sorry about that, Good Game announced that they were looking for a new presenter on the forums. Those forums are dead now. I wrote a review, sent in a DVD, and then, after a grueling 2-hour interview where we just talked about World of Warcraft and Counter-Strike, well, the rest is history.
Mana drain, new phase.
I feel like I've won some sort of cosmic challenge to get to work on this show and talk about the things I love with people who are forced to make me look good each week. Hey, thanks. I want to say Sally?
Adele.
That's the one. I never used to be that into racing games, well, except for rock and roll racing on the Mega Drive, of course. But something about this last generation of hardware has really allowed them to take it up a gear.
A playground for the most exotic cars and drivers in the world.
You get such a sense of speed from racing games now. The crashes, the detail, the excitement, the adrenaline rush, and they handle better than ever before too. So you don't really feel like you're simply controlling a car with a stick. You feel like you're in the driver's seat now, and often you can even see the steering wheel in your hands. And they're also really scratching that competitive itch. And for me, I think that started with the way Need for Speed Hot Pursuit compared your friends' scores with your own. And I think it's still the greatest racing game of all time. Stop. Games are about escapism, about making that perfect, beautiful, pristine, immaculate version of yourself that you get to live out in a virtual world. They can also be about making the ugliest character possible, for lols.
Humanity has questions.
Ah, my creepy Mass Effect shepherd. I know we've shown that footage on the show quite a few times now, but he's just so beautiful.
Despite all this, it's good seeing you again.
Making video games is hard. Making an independent video game over many years with limited or no funding with a small team can be a life-destroying experience. And in that time, someone else may release something which is better than what you're trying to do, but still haven't done yet. But with independent games comes freedom and innovation. They may not always be fun, but their experimental nature often makes them interesting. I like these ones.
Thomas was alone. Wow. A weird first thought to have.
Modern games often put massive amounts of effort into stunning visuals, complex characters, and intricate storylines to build emotion in a cold, cynical gamer heart. But Thomas Was Alone doesn't do any of that, and yet it still achieves the same goal.
Despite its title, this is a game about friends coming together, and underneath it all is a little message about finding our place in the world and how we're all different and have different strengths and weaknesses, but when we come together and work as a team, we can accomplish great things.
Yeah, I was surprised how much I like this game. I found myself chuckling the whole way through.
Thomas knew he'd never meet Nathan Fillion or a Transformer. He'd never get to visit Gotham City or eat at movies. It didn't matter.
Anyone who grew up gaming in the 80s or 90s can't help but feel an intense, serene wave of joy as they step into the retro world of mystery and puzzles that is Fez.
Cliffs become stairs, ladders join up, and doors appear out of nowhere.
This is a game of pure platforming and intense puzzling. To solve its puzzles, you will need a pen and paper, and if you're really serious about it, perhaps a corkboard, somewhere to pin your deranged scribblings and link them together with string. Fez may drive you completely bonkers, but I think it's a rewarding kind of madness. A journey through Limbo is a truly haunting experience.
This is a continuous side-scrolling 2D platformer, and quite literally the first thing you'll do in this game is step off a cliff and die. It is heartbreakingly brutal. When you fall hard. Sometimes you're even impaled on spikes, stabbed, crushed, or sawed to pieces.
Because the character you play is a small child, it makes the intentionally brutal deaths that much more shocking and affecting. This is one indie game that left me with chills. Papers, Please is an indie PC game, which at first glance may not look like much, but it's quite a unique experience. Your duty is to check the documents of anyone attempting to enter Arstotzka at the border town of Grestin.
It starts off fairly simple. Just make sure their passports are in order, check the expiry dates, and a few other little details here and there.
The more people you process in a day, the more you earn, but if you try and rush through it, then you'll inevitably miss something and get an infringement. It's such a unique idea though, and it's so well designed, especially for its price. And it shows that a retro art style with simple but strong mechanics can work really well. Everything from the music to the harsh, bleak layout, and the often unforgiving nature of your final judgment. One of the first crowd-funded games has been released for PC, and it's called Faster Than Light. It may look simple on the surface, but this game is rich in strategy and deep in complexity, and I'm a little bit obsessed with it, Hex.
You are tasked with taking a message across space while being chased by a rebel fleet.
Fires will erupt, your ship will get boarded, asteroid fields will smash your shields, nebulas will sap your power. It makes you prioritize what's important all the time. More than once I've been a lone survivor on my burning ship, flying it through an asteroid field, just into oblivion. And War of the Roses. There's just something a bit special about this hack and slash. This is one of those games which is perfect for online grade A shenanigans.
I'm gonna make it embarrassing and pull out my little dagger. Do it. Dagger party.
That was me!
Oh, you got him!
Yeah.
Next got him. Come on. Oh, man, comes around the side with the tomahawk.
Some games are just weird. Well, the dust has finally settled on the salacious controversy, and we've worked up the courage to review the raunchy party game We Dare by French developer Ubisoft.
Yes, if anyone was going to figure out a way of turning the harmless Nintendo Wii into a kinky sex device, it'd have to be the French.
Well, in fairness, most of the work done on We Dare was by Ubisoft Milan, but I guess the Italians are just as naughty. We tried to get into the mood with some nice wine, and of course we used the adequate protection on our Wiimotes.
Oh, can't be too careful. Now, you're probably thinking all this sounds about as sexy as a box of crayons, so the question is, where does We Dare actually deliver on that suggestive marketing? Yeah, where things do finally get a bit naughty is in a game called The Big Apple. You have to actually press A and B on the Wiimote using your face. The other sexy mini-game is one called Who Dares Wins, and this is literally a stripping game. The Wii balance board weighs each person, and then whoever removes the most clothing is declared the winner. Yes! Bajo? Bajo?
Deadly Premonition. Everything about this game is just weird. What's going on? No! I don't know what's going on.
I am very particular about my coffee. The very best you have, please.
I've never tasted a biscuit this delicious. Never mind, don't answer. Life is fun because of the mysteries.
The balance of milk and butter you've achieved here. Oh my.
And now, to talk about my game of the generation, we need to go back in time, all the way back to 2006. 2006. This was the year where I discovered the world of Warcraft.
How are ya?
It all began when a friend told me about this little online RPG he'd been playing. It looked very different from anything I'd seen before, so I thought I'd check it out. Instantly, the combat felt limited and dull. I always had to be online to play this game, 2006, Bajo thought? That's crazy. That's crazy. Hundreds of people all online at once, 2006, Bajo thought? That'll never work. That's not gonna work. 16 hours later, and I was all in. I started playing World of Warcraft on a level that I'd never played any other game before. When I wasn't at home, which was quite rare, all I could think about was getting back home to play more World of Warcraft. This game was just so very, very big. There was just so much to explore, so much loot to get, and so many newbies to gank. Old school WoW, or vanilla WoW, was a beast of a game. There was no GPS, no quest markers, only NPCs and other players to help you find where you needed to go. With each level, each quest complete, each new drop, my love for this game only grew and grew, until finally reaching the end goal of the end. Sure, it had an end. Back then, it was a long road to level 60, and I still remember the moment I hit the cap. I was fighting a rock elemental with my mechanical chicken by my side, who I think was only hitting for 1 or 2. I initially played on the Alliance side, and I still remember that first time I saw a horde. "That's a horde!" I yelled, but no one was around to help me, and those rabbit pelts weren't going to collect themselves. We fought, I lost, quickly. And that's where the game really got its hooks in. I found a love for the battlefield, the complex strategies of outwitting real human opponents with these fascinating RPG mechanics. Back in those days, you'd learn the names of the other people on the server, who to avoid and who you could actually take on. I'd say out of about 2,300 hours of my time in WoW, maybe 80–90% of that was spent guarding flags in PvP, or just out in the open world trying to cause trouble. There are a few video games where I can recall exact fights with other players, but in WoW I have a long list of them. Something about it, I don't know, it felt really personal because it was my character that I built up, so when I was attacked, yeah, it meant something. The constant pain and suffering of the always busy Stranglethorn Vale, where one innocent troll would turn into a war that would rage for hours. I remember one Warsong Gulch capture the flag round which went for 7 hours, where no one gave up because of the principle of the thing. Alterac Valley battles that raged for days and days and days, and only ending the moment you left the battle, missing out on that sweet honor. PvP was hard going back then. If you wanted to rank up and get the best gear, it would take a lot of time. You couldn't just grind it out, you had to be good at the game too, you had to win matches. Alliances were formed with other people in your faction, so it was already decided who was going to be Grand Marshal for that week, and so no one overtook each other too far. But Grand Marshal took a long time. I'm talking 10–14 hours a day for months and months and months and months. You could not let up or you'd fall too far behind. The sad thing was, though, whenever I saw someone get to Grand Marshal, that highest rank, and they got the best gear, they'd play a few more rounds, but then after a couple of days, they just stopped playing. And that sudden departure worried me, and it was the first thing that made me question all the hours I was putting into this game. What's the point if I'm just going to quit when I get to the top? By the end of it all, my World of Warcraft character was having a better life than I was. He had heaps of friends, he had plenty of money, and he was always well fed. But real life Bajo was tired. His eyes were always sore. His friends were always wondering where he was. And the skin on his index finger and thumb had legitimately worn down to a red bloody pulp. Ugh. I have this one particular memory where I was driving my car and I couldn't quite work out where I was meant to go, and without even thinking, my hand instinctively lifted off the steering wheel and went to press the M key on an imaginary keyboard on my steering wheel. The worlds were blurring. World of Warcraft changed my life in many ways. I think I probably should have stopped playing before hour 2300, and I'm not actually sure if I wear that number as a badge of honor or embarrassment. But looking back, I genuinely have no regrets. I cherish my time with WoW because it wasn't just a game, it was a community. I wasn't addicted to WoW, I was addicted to feeling important, and that's something that that game gave me, and at the time I think I needed that a bit in my life. I don't think a game will come around again and do what WoW did in my lifetime, and I certainly would never recommend losing yourself to a game like that to anyone, but I wouldn't trade any of those memories for anything. WoW was my summer in Europe, my romance in France. I often think of my old guildmates who I fought side by side with every day, who lived in a distant server in another part of the world, who I never met and probably never will. Thank you so much for joining me as I looked back at the last generation of games and some of my favourite moments, but now I'm afraid we must part ways. Oh, my ride is here, excuse me.
You know what? Being an actor is sometimes a difficult job at the best of times. Often you're sitting by the phone waiting for the next call to come through and forced to take jobs in administration or prostitution. But I'll tell you what, stick around because I'm going to give you a dramatisation of what it's actually like waiting for the next gig. Stick around. Just a matter of time. Hi there, Stephen. We'd like you offer the job. Hi, thanks very much. I'll take it. No worries. We'll see you tomorrow for lots of cash. Just ring. I'll do anything. I'll be a weatherman. And on the right, we have some clouds. On the left, we have some more clouds. Yes, it's going to be hot. Hello, Mr. Dial Tone. I'd have to check my schedule, but I think I'm free.